When you were 5 or 6 or 7, did you ever think about running away from home when your mammy wouldn't buy you the trainers you wanted, or the game you wanted, or the dress you wanted? I had a long list, and very high on my list of places to run away was Mr. and Mrs. Cassidy's. Mr. and Mrs. Cassidy were the parents of my best friend, Maura, and the main reason I wanted to run away there was because of Mr. Cassidy, who was my favourite daddy who lived on our road. Mr. Cassidy was a tall, rangy Fermanagh man with a great sense of humour. And when I went down to visit the house, he would take Maura and myself into the kitchen and make a cup of tea for us and sit down and talk to us. And he never asked, how many slaps did you get today in school? He never asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? He never asked those stupid questions that adults always ask children. Instead, he talked to us like real people and asked our opinion and asked us questions and listened to our answers. Not only that, but every so often he used to take us into town to see a film. And on one momentous occasion, he brought us to the Gaiety Theatre to see a pantomime. Well, it was the first time I had ever been in a theatre, and I was thrilled to bits. We came in and there was a chandelier that was glittering, and there was goldy bits all over the ceiling, and the seats were red velvet and they pushed up, and I thought, these are the seats that I want my mammy to have at home. I thought they were fabulous, and the decor was exactly the way I was going to make my house when I grew up and I had a house of my own. I don't remember a huge amount about the pantomime, except there was lots of glitter and lots of shiny things which I loved. But I do remember one scene. It was the first scene immediately after the interval. The curtains opened, and out onto the stage came harlequins and pierrots, and they were all in black and white. The harlequins had like diamondy black and white leotards on, and the pierrots had white like clown suits with big black baubles down the front and big black baubles on their hats, and they did acrobatics and they juggled and they thrilled us to bits. And then they went over and they sat on the side of the stage, and from the other side in came the dancers, and they were all in white tie and tails, and they had top hats and canes and fishnet tights, and they high kicked their way across the stage, and they sat down. And then in came Buttons, and he was wearing black and white as well. It was like white and black and white and black, like a quartered suit. And he brought us all up to date on the action. And then out from the side came the bad guy, and he was all dressed in black, and he had a big black hat and a black beard and a cloak. And out from the cloak he took a knife, and he ran after the pierrots and he chased them off the stage, and he ran after the dancers and he chased them off the stage, and then he crept up on Buttons, and we were terrified that he would kill Buttons, and we were screaming, he's behind you, he's behind you. We got so upset by it, we jumped to our feet and we were pointing, he's behind you, he's behind you. And every time Buttons turned round, he missed the baddie, and just as the baddie was about to kill Buttons, in came the good fairy. And she was dressed completely in white, and she was in this white carriage that was pulled by two little horses, real live horses. The horses were brown, but there you go. Anyway, I thought that this was the most sophisticated, most fabulous thing I had ever seen in my life. And I wondered what theatrical genius had the idea of putting the bad people in black and the good people in white and the rest in a mixture of black and white. When I got home, my mother wanted to hear all about it, and she sat me down in the kitchen, and I told her the whole thing from start to finish. But when it came to the bit about the black and white scene, I suddenly knew how I could make it even better. And the fairy princess came in, I said, in a carriage and was pulled by little real live ponies, and they were black and white as well. Oh, piebald ponies, said my mother. Yes, I said. And I knew I had told a lie, but, But as a result of my enthusiastic review, my mother took my brothers to the same pantomime, and I knew that I was going to be cut out in this lie. Because in our house, telling a lie was the worst thing you can do. But telling a lie to your parents was even worse. So I waited, expecting some terrible punishment, and my mother came home and she said, but the ponies weren't piebald, they weren't black and white, they were brown. So I just looked at my feet and waited to hear how I was going to be punished. But instead, she patted me on the head and said, but it makes a better story that way, doesn't it? I was totally thrown. I couldn't work this one out at all. So I decided I'd have to consult Mr. Cassidy. And I went down to Cassidy's and I told Mr. Cassidy what had happened, and he sat and he considered it for a bit, and then he said, but the thing is, when you made the ponies black and white, you were getting at the essential truth of the story. It's what all writers and artists do. It's called artistic license. And I've been doing it ever since.